Have you made your New Year's resolutions for your website already? I think next year should be all about scaling your website up to the next level. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can approach this and how to structure your efforts to make sure that you focus on the right things here. Hi, my name is Gert. I'm the founder of SEOleverage.com, an SEO agency with its own framework, Erica, which helps our clients week after week, month after month to get compounding results in a slow and steady fashion. If you want to check this out, head over to SEOleverage.com. I'd be more than happy to jump on a call with you and check out what we can do and if this framework is something that can work for your site as well. Scaling your website is all about content and links. This is ultimately what moves the needle. The right content backed up with links from other websites is going to rank high, is going to attract additional traffic, but you really want to be smart about it. Scaling just for the sake of adding more stuff to your website isn't necessarily what you want. It can even be counterproductive. So you definitely want to make sure that you grow in a structured way, following a few simple guidelines. One of them is that I advise strongly people to make sure they follow a so-called content map. Map out your entire content, define what are the key entry points, those so-called pillar articles that are actually introducing a topic, and then link from there to individual articles that deal with the different angles, the different aspects of this in a very specific way. So you will have one article specifically dealing with some topic in particular, and the pillar article essentially linking to that article. And vice versa, the specific article should be linking back up to the pillar article. And what you're creating this way is a so-called content cluster. This is a very powerful structure for two reasons. First, it's really interesting for clients because they can just click through your structure and explore a topic from all different angles. And two, this is really good for authority flow across the site. Authority is going to go to your pillar articles, and those are then distributing this authority through the different internal links. Another thing where I would want you to check out your scaling approach, your scaling strategy for next year is backlinks. Backlinks essentially are votes of confidence from the internet backing up your site, citing or referencing your site in a particular context. And it just makes sense from Google's perspective if you think about it. Imagine Google isn't really sure whether to trust your site or not. What if there are 50 other sites out there that apparently trust you because they reference you whenever it comes to a context related to your industry? Why wouldn't Google take those signals into account? And there is even a more important reason for Google to focus on links, because content becomes more and more similar. Content becomes more and more auto-generated. So only relying on the best content out there, where most people, us included, is checking out what Google wants to rank and tries to produce something similar, is not going to be enough for Google. Google will need additional signals. And if you have a trusted website that endorses another website with a link, it's just a signal Google is not going to be able to ignore. We've been talking about site structure, we've been talking about links, and before we talk about the next item, I would like to ask you to give us a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our channel. You're going to help us make sure that we create more and more videos every week, ideally, in terms of information, and make sure that we help you grow, accompany you on your journey. And whenever you feel like needing some additional help, reach out over at SEOleverage.com and get in touch with me and my team. The next element I want to talk about after site structure and backlinks is really the number of content items you want or need. I know people who kind of feel the pressure to put something fresh out every 2 days, every week, every month, etc. Google couldn't care less about frequency. What I do think Google cares about, and this is what the data shows we have, is that you cover a topic from all kinds of angles. So imagine you talk about coffee mugs, and you can talk about coffee mugs and designs and designers and coffee mug layouts and what kind of coffee goes in which mug, etc. You can talk about this topic from all kinds of angles. Then it really creates what's called a topical relevance. So Google is going to take your site into account because you just have so much information well structured on your website about this topic that whenever they send you someone, they seem to find what they're looking for. Ultimately, what you want to avoid is that people head back to Google and click on another result because they weren't sure you would have what they were looking for. And this is where it's so important to make sure that you have the most important information on your website about a topic, and you interlink those content pieces. So within your article, there should be internal links driving people to the different sections so they can really explore this topic. But also on the page as well, there are a few things you definitely want to take into account. Scaling content next year is going to mean creating more content, more of the right content, but every single piece of content should be structured in a way that people can really work with it. A structure that I really like is that there is an intro, there is a table of contents, there is a subheadline, 1-2 paragraphs, maybe a call to action, another subheadline, 1 or 2 paragraphs, maybe an image, another subheadline, etc. The index, the jump to section on top, is going to allow people to jump directly to different sections, which is great. But there is an added value here, because right when they are at the start, they already know what's going to come on this page. And this is very helpful from a mobile phone, for example. Imagine a very long article and you're on a mobile phone. You're not going to scroll all the way down to see if they have some information about what you're really interested in. You're just going to like or want to check out the index and see if you can jump directly to the section you're interested in. This is going to reduce the bounce rate, is going to make sure people engage better with your content and that they actually find what they're looking for and not head back to Google just because maybe the information they were looking for was down below on the page and they even didn't scroll that far. You can also do some hotjar tracking, for example, or Crazy Egg. There are some tools out there that track how far people scroll, and this is a really interesting exercise. When you have a site that you think should be performing better, add this code and get an idea how far people really scroll. I had a client who was ranking number 1, number 2 for one of the most important keywords, but hardly got any conversions and had a terribly high bounce rate. And what really happened is that only 40% scrolled past the index because everybody just wanted to have this information they had in the first paragraph, so there was no reason to really engage with this piece of content. Let's talk about quantity a little bit. Obviously, you don't need a certain frequency on a normal website, a media outlet, or a news site. You couldn't care less about frequency, but I would definitely say that you want to care about the quantity of content you produce if you want to grow your site in a certain way, in a certain fashion over the coming year. So probably you could look into the content creation process. What does this look like right now for you? Are you creating all the content? Do you have a writer creating all the content? Can you add another writer? Can you get the content from some content platforms or writing platforms out there? How can you really scale the content approach to cover, I don't know, maybe batches of 20 articles pretty much at once on your website, interlink them and essentially create content cluster after content cluster all together. So when Google starts crawling this cluster, they can find all the relations and all the related pieces of content, all well structured together on your website. And this is a really added value. Sometimes we take it too slowly, to be honest. Sometimes we just create one piece of our content here, then we optimize another one, which is a good approach. This really maintains what you have and might give you even a little bit of growth if you do it right. But then if you really want to scale it, very often we need to see how can we really get more content going? How can we make sure that we add so much value to our website that Google can just not ignore us as one of the possible providers? Because with this quantity, our topical relevance is just so strong that it just makes sense for them to rank us as one of the options, and then user signals are going to tell whether this is going to happen or not. Let me wrap this up. You want to create more content to create more topical relevance. You want to make sure the content is structured well so Google can understand how this fits together and people can really explore this topic on your website. You want to get industry relevant websites backing you up with links to your website, to your articles. Don't forget about links to your pillar articles, because those are going to drive the authority down to the individual content pieces that you want to also rank. And make sure that every piece of content is presented in a way that's user-friendly, that has some content on top, has an index where people can jump around in this article, really figure out what this is about, and then find and engage your content, explore the topic further on your website. You want to avoid that they head back to Google, click on something else because they prefer a different option. My name is Gert. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to this video for more videos every single week, and head over to SEOleverage.com to check out our Erica framework. We're really proud of it. It's getting great results, and you might want to really check this out as an option for your website.